Gotta have a friend in Jesus. Am I right?
Yeah, you know.
Right. That's what I'm always saying.
When I watched Supernatural.
When
Hello, and welcome to Saving People Queering Things, this supernatural podcast where Jesus might be on a flatbread.
Today we are pulling up to season 5, episode 2. Good God, y'all.
I am your host, Elayna, and joining me today, we have, who's here?
I'm August, my pronouns are they, them, and you all know me.
And who else do we have? Because we got a warm welcome to two friends that we love very dearly, one of whose voices you've already heard. We've got Beth and Hannah from Raising Perdition and Raising Winchesters. Say hello, friends.
Hello.
Hi.
We're so glad to have you back.
Yes.
We're happy to be back.
Yes, very.
Oh, it's such a good time when we get to have friends, especially friends that we've had a chance to like hug IRL. It's always a good time.
goodness.
It's great. Yes, we love that.
so
I think that's since the last time you've been on a Queering Things episode, we've met you in person.
Yeah.
So
So
it's great.
exciting.
It's great.
We'll always have Nashville.
Yeah, we'll always have Nashville.
Now that you have met our hosts, it is time to catch you up. And if you haven't watched Supernatural recently, this is what you've missed on the road so far. First up, Beth is going to recap the show so far. So Beth, are you ready
Yes.
to recap that for us?
Okay.
All right, I'm going to count you in.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
Mary burned on the ceiling, and then John died to save Dean. Sam found out he was a special child with demon blood, and then was in the demon blood Hunger Games. And then he died, and then Dean sold his soul to save Sam, and then they killed Yellow Eyes with the cult, and then Bella stole the cult and gave it to the demons, and then Sam and Dean tried to save Dean from his deal, but failed, and Dean goes to hell. Then Castiel, angel of the Lord, saves Dean from hell, but oh man, it was too late, and Dean actually broke the first seal of the apocalypse of 66. And if all of them break, then Lucifer rises, and then the demons are really good at breaking the seals, but it turns out that's because the angels wanted them to do it because they want the apocalypse to happen, and I'm still going.
I mean,
Fell.
Yes.
and Cass fell over. Cass tripped over something.
Yep, Cass fell for Dean.
And that thing was deep.
Yeah.
Incredible.
That was a top tier recap. We thank you for your service.
Thorough and efficient.
And now our dear and lovely Hannah is going to recap this week's episode. Good God, y'all. We got the
Good
Southerners
God,
on
y'all.
for the y'all
Good
episode.
God, y'all.
My
I was
heart's
thinking-
racing. I'm nervous.
I was thinking about that because this is also an episode where we have a lot of friends that return in the episode. So it seems very fitting that we
Oh,
have y'all on.
Oh,
for that.
that just gave me
August.
emotions. How
Stop
dare
it.
Oh my
you?
gosh.
Good God, y'all. Anyway,
God, y'all.
all right. Hannah, are you ready to recap for us?
Yeah, for
That
sure.
was the cutest little wiggle I've ever seen a person
Oh.
do in my life.
Thank
Look
you
at
so
go.
much. That was my main wiggle. That's my go-to wiggle. Thank
It's a
you.
good, it's a good wiggle. I feel
Okay,
bad that
minor, do you have
listeners.
minor wiggles as well?
Yeah. It just depends how I'm feeling. I'm really nervous right now. So that was a
You
big wiggle.
shouldn't be. You're doing beautifully.
This is the hardest part of the episode.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
After this,
all
you just get to
downhill from here, quite frankly.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a great time. But are you ready? I'm gonna count you in.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Take it away.
So Bobby's in a wheelchair still and he's mad about it. And then Cash shows up and he's like, Dean, I need your amulet to find God. And Dean's like, no. And then he's like, Dean. And Dean's like, okay. Rufus finds a job and he calls Ellen, Joe, and Bobby to help. But Sam and Dean show up instead of Bobby, obviously. And he's like, everybody here's a demon. And Dean doesn't trust Sam around demons because blood. And then there's lots of fighting between a bunch of humans who think each other are demons, but their tricks aren't working for some reason. And then they find out it's War, the horseman. And then they cut off his ring. And then Sam's like, I gotta go because I can't do this.
Top tier.
man.
Top tier.
I have
You
no
did-
notes.
You got through the whole
Yeah.
episode, which like I was getting worried at the end there. I was like, you gonna get there? You got
Me
there.
too.
You
That
got
was
there.
dazzling, and you missed nothing.
Thank you.
I'm
The
so
problem
proud.
is now I'll never want to do it again because I did one good. I can't do it again.
Oh, my dear. Well, now that everyone is all caught up on where we're at in the series, it is time for us to pick some music to accompany us on our journey. Here is what we have on our episode mixtape this week. August, do you want to take it away? I know you said you had an interesting pick for this week.
Oh, I'm not sure if interesting is the right word. Just a silly little pick.
We
not
love
at
a
all.
silly little pick around here.
I'm gonna go with "This Is War" by 30 Seconds to Mars.
Yes!
It just feels appropriate. And do I need to explain more of why?
No.
I don't think think I need to explain
brilliant
more of why. This
selection.
is War by 30 Seconds to Mars.
Excellent.
I was really
Amazing.
worried someone else was going to take that one.
No, so good.
I went less for emotional resonance and more for like just
But
real
that
obvious.
song does have such emotional resonance. That's a really good song. I like it. Beth, Hannah, what are your selections for this week?
Okay, so I chose Falling by Harry Styles, kind of
Ooh.
focusing
Yes.
on Sam and his like inside his head, like dealing with messing up and not believing in himself, and then having Dean not believe in him and stuff like that. So it's just
Brutal.
sad.
Sad, just a sad little song for a sad little episode.
Yeah.
So fun. Falling is such a sad song in general.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, Hannah helped me pick that song, and I cannot take credit for it.
It's a good one. It's a good pick.
Well, I like Hannah how you were like, you're making comments about this.
Such a good choice, Beth. Incredible.
Remarkable.
I would have never thought of that.
Sensational.
Yeah.
Show-stopping.
And-
Truly.
Absolutely. It is a good song, though. Good choice. I sent her several choices. She picked that one. It was a good choice.
Agreed.
I think I'm going to pick Saint Honesty by Sarah Bareilles because it's all about honesty, Sam being honest about himself and the demon blood. And it's also kind of a sad one, but it's a good one.
I love that. That like threw me way back to
Yeah.
by Sarah Bareilles. Like
This might be the
days.
first episode
Yes.
on record where I know every song that's been suggested. And I kind of love that for
Ooh.
me. So my suggestion this week is All Time Low by John Bellion, sheerly because of where the boys end up at the end. Like it's crushing. You've got lyrics in this song like, I've been trying to fix my pride, but that shit's broken. Lie, try to hide. It's just very, very related to, I think, how the boys' relationship feels like it's falling apart towards the end of this one. So that is my contribution.
Appropriate.
Now that we have that mixtape playing, it is time for this week's hunt. And today, as already stated, we are exploring Good God, Y'all, which is the second episode of season 5. And this week's card, since season 5, for those of you just joining us, we're instead of doing our typical just like picking a theme, we are looking at the series through the Supernatural Tarot deck. And this week's card is the Two of Bones. And August has that card for us, and August is going to share the description and tell us a little bit more about this card. And we're basically going to use that as our sort of lens through which to discuss the episode.
Yeah.
So
I
take
think
it away.
this card is very interesting for this episode. Reading the description, the Two of Bones encourages you to look to the future. Careful planning is more important than making a quick choice right now. Do your research and focus on coming up with a well thought out strategy to set yourself up for success. Sometimes Two of Bones can indicate travel on the horizon. Yeah. So yeah, this card is really interesting when you think about this episode and kind of the looming threat of the apocalypse. I don't know if there are any things that stood out to any of you when I was reading that about like thematically where we're going.
Well, I always love with what I'm really excited for, like with this season and the visiting kind of like the episodes through the lens of these cards is just like, as a person who loves tarot, like looking at it not just through like the Supernatural deck, but like tarot as a whole. And kind of like the Two of Bones is supposed to be like this deck's equivalent to the Two of Wands, which is like a card about like progress and decisions and discovery. And the fact that it's like two individual things, and this is an episode where you've got the two brothers kind of at odds with each other as they try to figure out how to move forward on their own. Like that just to me like really jumped out when we were trying to decide like, is this a good card for this episode? I was like, yeah, because they're kind of standing apart and progressing in these two different directions. And I think that's like really cool.
I like, thanks for providing that additional kind of context for this card. I like the fact that we're thinking about how both Sam and Dean have like opposite sort of separate decisions to make about their futures. And this is one of the first times in the show that they're really like looking at choosing very different things.
Yeah.
Distinctly. Like in season 4, you had them kind of going on different paths, but still
Unwillingly.
in name. Whereas this time it's like they're on the same page about going on different pages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's interesting. That'll be interesting to track that through this episode a little bit.
And so with that being said, now it's time for just our main discussion of the episode. I really feel like this is one of those ones where the episode title says it all, because like, good God, y'all, this one hurts. I don't like it when they're sad at each other. It makes me upset. And that's all this season is. And I don't like it.
They have been in active conflict since like
Yes.
421 specifically.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, a lot of season 4, but since 421
Yeah.
specifically.
Which Hannah and I recently rewatched 421 because of Beth from Driver Picks. So like we got it fresh on our
Yeah.
brains.
Oh,
Yeah, we
good. So you're
do.
caught up on the emotional
Yes.
conflict that they're currently having.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Forgot, like, I always remember that 421 is really bad and like really tense for their relationship, but I always forget that like it doesn't really let up in these first 3
Right.
episodes of season 5. Like, I always think I feel like they're on the same page at the beginning of season 5, but they're really like not.
They still have to deal with their shit.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
dealing with like the fallout of the fact that everything went to shit at the end of season 4 and this like broken trust.
Well, because you get kind of like a false start to season 5 in which, you know, Sam is like, okay, you know, like, let's hear it. Like, how mad are you? And Dean's just like, I'm fine. It's fine. We're fine. Everything's fine. And it's not until the
Dean
last,
Winchester.
like, yeah, you know, it's not until the last 2 minutes of that episode that he's like, hey, I am terrible. And I am just going through the motions because I am Dean Just Function Winchester, and that's how I do things. And it's a shame. And so this episode, you kind of really see Dean sort of leaning into what he says at the end of the previous episode, where he's like, you know, I just can't trust you anymore. You see the manifestation of that deteriorated trust playing
Yeah.
out throughout this episode. And it doesn't help that you literally have war in people's brains, like putting everybody at odds with each other.
Yeah, I find it interesting that they didn't go with, like, storytelling wise, they didn't go with like actually pitting Sam and Dean against each other in quite the same like intensity that they probably could have. Like, they let that be sort of the simmering thing under the surface instead of actually having them go after each other.
Well, I think it's fitting though, because Dean still ends up being Dean and being super worried about Sam
Yeah.
throughout the episode. Because it's like, as pissed as he is at him, as much as he doesn't trust him, when Ellen walks in and is like, he's like, where's Sam? You can tell he's fucking upset. And he's like, where is my brother? Like, as mad as he is the minute that he's not there, it's kind of like how you have that sibling dynamic of like, nobody can pick on my sibling but me.
Mhm.
Right.
No one's allowed to not trust my sibling but me. Like, it's just weird.
It's yeah, and kind of at the end of the, like, this is jumping way ahead, but at the end of the episode he even says that. He says like, I spend more of my time being worried about you than I do like doing the thing that I need to do to try and, like, you know, stop the apocalypse, which is obviously kind of an issue.
Right. I mean, he
Yeah.
has that moment where he almost leaves all the people to go get Sam, and then he has to like make that decision to stay. And you can just see that he like really struggles with it. And he's like, oh, the right thing to do is to stay right now.
Ooh, that's such an interesting when you think about like that theme from the card of like making decisions and like being conflicted about them and like not knowing what's the right path.
Yeah,
Right.
figuring out which way you're going to progress.
It's almost like that is the turning point that allows him to then, when Sam's like, I'm gonna go, Dean's like, you know what? I think that's actually the right call.
Yeah.
Horrible. I felt less, it's funny, I think in previous watches of this episode, I felt more conflicted about the choices that they make to separate. Like, I think that that used to be like I used to really hate that decision and be like, Dean, how dare you be okay with Sam like going?
But like, it's really kind of healthy.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? I actually am way less upset about Dean's suspicion of Sam now that we've done this season 4 like through a really analytical lens. I'm way more.
Yeah.
I'm always really hard on Dean for some of his like decisions because, you know, being Dean coded means you're really hard on Dean, I think, a lot of the time. And so, but this is like not all of his choices are good, but I think like his suspicion and that has been the way he's handled that in the last like couple of episodes. I've been like, you know, that's kind of fair.
Yeah.
It is
Both
fair.
you and Beth, both you and Hannah had like really visible reactions when I started talking. And
Yeah,
I
I
didn't hear what you were
Would
thinking
love
about.
to hear your takes
Well,
about
the
this.
first time I watched this, Beth was like with me, not with me in person, but like I was watching it and talking to her about it the whole time. The whole time I was like, yeah, Dean, totally. And I still like 100% stand by that. Like,
We're
like,
such
you're
Dean
super-
apologists.
We're
I
like,
was
yeah,
like-
yeah.
Will say I first watched this episode for the first time like 10 years ago. So I was a lot younger and I think
Yeah.
I was
Yeah, same.
not as
Yeah.
healthy. I was not as maybe didn't maybe understand some of the like dynamics at play of like how trust and all that sort of thing
Right.
plays out.
Right.
Yeah, I think when I watch it now, like trying, because I try to like look at both ends
Yeah,
more now. Like
yeah.
since starting our podcast, I try to like, okay, let's see what both characters mean and give them both the benefit of the doubt. And, you know, Sam says in the end, he's like, you know, I was expecting more of a fight. And like, I think that he wanted to go, but he didn't want Dean to want him to
He
go.
wanted to
and
fight
so,
him.
and that's it.
and
That's
so,
the
like,
part that hurts.
Dean not
Yeah.
fighting him on it is way
Yeah.
more painful.
yeah.
Yes.
And I can see how that would like hurt Sam's feelings. But I do think that they needed the space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was better for them both overall, personally.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
The part that I think makes it the most gut-wrenching, out of everything about it that sucks, is the fact that, one, Dean refers to him as Sammy when he says, you two, like, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
He uses
Little
Sammy,
brother-
which we
little
know
brother
is
thing.
something he uses only in an affectionate way in moments when he's really feeling connected to Sam. And two, he offers him the impala.
I
Yeah.
know.
Screaming,
So
screaming,
precious.
crying, throwing up.
It's so
He's-
sad.
I feel like it's really like he's trying to let Sam know because he can't use his words. Dean
He
Winchester
can't.
does
He
not know how
can't.
to use his words. And he doesn't understand
He
how to
doesn't.
get what he's feeling to translate to Sam.
He can't use feeling words. There's
Right,
no
and he-
I
no.
statements coming out of Dean Winchester's mouth.
Absolutely not. And he knows that Sam is upset, and he knows that he's upset Sam. And so he's like, I don't know how to explain to you other than I will give you baby.
And Sam, I think, knows that.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
he's like, I need you to go and work on yourself, but like I will try to make it better. Do you want the car?
Right. I will give you my literal home. Like, I will give you.
I will
if
give you
I
my
can't-
home. Yeah.
I
Oh,
think that's the thing is like Dean and Sam are each other's home. So
Yes.
for Dean to be like, I
Aw.
will give you the physical representation of our home that's love.
Yeah.
That's love. That's like
He
I'm
loves him
fine.
so
This
much.
is fine. We're all
And-
fine here.
made myself more sad.
Him telling him to leave doesn't mean he doesn't love him. And he's like, I
No.
don't know how to tell you this without telling you. I'll just take the car. Please just take the car. And then
Yeah.
Sam says no. And he's like, okay. He's like, maybe that didn't
Will it?
work out as well as I wanted it to.
But it's
We all know that idiot had a sigh of relief inside, even if he didn't let it show on his
Right. He's
face.
like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
thank God.
Oh, my
Oh,
God, he's not going to
God.
take it.
imagine Dean Winchester at the beginning
Dean
of season 5
Winchester,
driving
without
around without
his brother
car.
and his car, a lost soul.
Well,
Right.
there's gonna be not to be spoilery, but like there will be times where that will happen, and it's
And
we-
not good. It's not
we
good.
don't
It's
talk
not in a good
about
mental state.
The Bruno that is those moments, okay?
Exactly.
We just don't.
We will one day.
No, we won't. You might, maybe.
I
We'll
also
have you on those episodes. You
Good
have
luck
to talk
getting
about
meat.
them.
Oh,
You
no.
know. Access denied.
I want to like draw another connection within the episode of I think the amulet, that scene is actually really tied to it as well,
Oh,
because I think
yes.
that's another moment for Dean when he's willing to give the amulet to Cass, another moment of him being like, in this moment, I'm willing to create this separation between me and my brother.
Can we talk for just a
Ooh.
moment about Jensen, my name is Dean Winchester Ackles, and his acting in that moment when he says no, and the way he's like, no, like he just
That entire scene drives me insane.
yeah.
The Destiel of it all. Just
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Let's get into the Destiel of it all.
Let's dig in. Let's dive.
um,
It's the way that he's like, I need you to like let me use that, and he's like, no, and then Cass turns it into a command. Cass goes, Dean, give it to me, and Dean does it.
He's just like, okay.
he says, all right, I guess.
All right, I guess.
I
He's
suppose,
like,
honey.
okay, don't lose it, please.
Like, Dean, tell me you're a bottom without telling me you're a bottom.
Just love someone to tell him what to do.
Yeah.
Well, he loves Cass to tell him what to do. He doesn't
Exactly,
like when
yes.
most people tell him what
Yeah.
to do. But when it's
That's
Cass,
true.
So true. That's
when
true.
it's the
He
angel
loves-
he's been
yeah.
hard eyes about for an entire season.
Mhm.
I used to do this thing called Destiel Tuesdays on my TikTok page that I haven't done in a while because I was tired of doing them. But I
Love
did
that for you.
break down this scene specifically, and it was just the way that Cass is pretty much only talking to Dean.
Oh yeah, Sam
Bobby
may as
and
well not be
Sam
in the
are
room.
just in the background.
They may as well
Especially
not
when
as
they're
well
like
be
standing in
furniture.
the doorway.
Yes.
It's like just Sam and like not Sam, Cass and Dean like staring at each other, and Sam's just in the
So
background like,
Like, should I leave?
Hello. Right.
Yeah,
There's
Like,
like,
do you guys need a second?
there's approximately
know I can
4
hear
centimeters
you?
between them.
Well, yeah, this is
Yes.
a big ass hospital room, and
yeah.
everyone's like Sam, Dean, and Bobby are all spread out, and Cass is
Right next to Dean. So close to Dean. And like
close to.
when he's like Bobby like interrupts and he's like, well, I know you didn't come here to just like yell at us. What do you want? And like Cass has to like drag his eyes off of Dean. And he's like, I guess I'll acknowledge the room.
Well, and the way that Bobby's like, I don't have anything like that, and Cass just is like, yeah, I know you don't. Who said I was talking to you, bitch? Like, basically,
like,
that's what he's
where it is.
When he came in, he does
My
say, I need to talk to you.
It.
And he looks at Dean.
Yeah.
He's like, I need to talk to you specifically, Dean.
Yeah.
And we get the hot girl Castiel walk in the hospital hallway.
Yes.
I think that's important to flag.
Yeah.
The fluttering trench coat.
Yes.
The like
Strutting.
Not the hot girl Castiel walk.
It's very important.
Castiel is a hot girl.
The hot girl Castiel walk.
So us discussing like season 5 and 6 into the summer, it's gonna be like Castiel's hot girl summer.
Look at his yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Well,
Castiel's
Cass never
hot,
got one,
you know,
really.
you just got to point it out.
He is
This
hot.
also episode has the iconic line. The like,
Yes.
I'm right in your face. I'm hunted. I rebelled. I did it.
And I did all of it for you.
All of it for you.
For you, baby.
for you.
I did it, all of it for
okay, not to
you.
save the world. I thought this was about saving the world and stopping
No.
this. Oh, you didn't do it for that. You
No,
know,
it's because
for you.
Cass's world is Dean.
You did it because your boyfriend asked you nicely.
That millennia's old angel has
Mhm.
spent like less than a year with Dean Winchester and is
I tell
like,
you
yeah,
what.
I'll throw it all
He's
away.
one man's soul. Yep. And he's just done.
He's like,
He's just
oh,
done.
okay, so that's what it's all about. Okay, that's what it's all about.
The more I rewatch this show, like every time I go to do a rewatch of this show, I go into it telling myself, I can't possibly
I have to be
become
objective.
more of a Dean and Cass shipper than I already was. And yet, it's like the movie The Prestige. Every time I watch it, I get something new out of it. Like
Yeah.
I just
Specifically
this is cinema. Like they
Yes.
just
An excellent film.
Can't believe
Yes,
you
excellent.
compared Destiel to
did.
the Prestige.
yes, I did.
To
I
the
said what I said.
Prestige.
Of all things.
I think it's one of the greatest films of all time. And yes, I compared it to Destiel.
Oh,
I said
it's
what
such
I
a good
said.
movie. Wildly different than Destiel though, but it's such a good movie.
But it's a movie where every time I watch it, I notice something different.
Yeah.
And that's for me, like as a person who's like a dork and who has a film degree, I love a piece of media that I get something new out of every time I watch it. And Supernatural, as terrible as some of the episodes are, it is one of those pieces of media, specifically Destiel episodes, like episodes that are
Yeah.
heavy on the Dean cast. There are always, every time, there's another face twitch that Misha does, or another acting Joyce that makes me go, the two of you are in love with each other, like characters wise.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible.
I think I said this like in season 4 at some point, but like I came into season 4 being like, I am going to be an objective person about this. Like I'm such a shipper, and I have been for so long, but I was like, okay, it's been a while since I've seen like their early relationship. It's been a while since I've watched it chronologically, and we're analyzing it for the podcast. I'm going to come in. Obviously I have a bias. Like obviously I know how I feel about these characters and their relationship, but I also want to be able to like genuinely back that up with what's happening in the show. I don't want to, in our analysis, I want to like actually use what we've got on the screen. And I genuinely thought that it would take longer. I thought that it slow burned more than it did.
No.
Yeah.
Season
was
4
way
has
more
so much
instantaneous.
gay shit. And I think I knew that, but I was trying really hard to not have those glasses on so I could
Right.
actually try and see it a little more objectively.
I'm with you there.
Before I was like, I wanted the show to convince me this time. I was like, we're watching from season 4. I want it to convince me from that point. When is the moment where I'm going to be like, oh, there is something between these two? And it was extremely early. And there's been so much in these episodes that is like impossible to ignore. And I am very delighted by this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a curse because you're like, oh yes, but also, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we were talking about the like, I did it, all of it for you, I did like note something this time for the first time that was like, oh no, like something that Dean could internalize, because Cass says that he did all of it and then he lost everything for nothing. So it like almost
Oh.
implies that he fell for Dean for no reason, like it wasn't worth it. And so if Dean is internalizing that, I feel like later on, as you like get through this season and seasons later, like it could like start to like connect dots as to why Dean does some of the things that he does. Like he just thinks that he's not worth it.
Right.
So-
He thinks that even Cass, even this early, Cass is like, I gave everything up for you. and it wasn't worth it. Therefore,
Right.
you are not, like, Dean very much can go.
Yeah.
Therefore,
And,
I'm
like,
not worth it.
I don't think that's what Cass meant, but I feel like that's what Dean is going to take from it.
Oh, we know
Yes,
Dean,
for
if,
sure.
if Dean can take something
Mhm.
the absolute worst possible way for his self-esteem.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to
Yeah.
be doing that. That's the
He
one I'm
will.
choosing.
10,000 years dungeon for that thought is all I'm gonna say.
I didn't like having it, okay?
You're sharing the
Oh.
love or the pain with all of
Yeah.
us.
And of course, like, Cass was mad because Dean is like, the whole reason why they're there, because Cass is like, killing Lucifer, that's stupid. I'm gonna find God. Like, and
And Dean's like, finding God,
That's
that's
stupid.
stupid.
right.
Yeah.
And he's like,
They're
before
such
he
an old
turns
married
around-
couple.
They are, truly. Before he turns around, like, Dean is just like, this is dumb. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And you see Misha Collins, like, he's like clenching his jaw, and he like turns around and he's like, listen, I don't want to hear it. You and your brother set Lucifer free. So now we have to try to fix it.
He's
So-
like, so, he's like, you don't get to
Mhm.
suggest solutions right now. You're the problem. I'm going to come up with a solution. We're following my plan this time.
right.
Like, we followed yours and it went badly. Like,
I also think it's funny that when Cass says you and your brother, and it cuts to Sam, and he's just the sad clown in the room.
Yes. He's just like,
He's like, yeah, that
oh,
was
now
me.
I'm involved. Now I'm
Like,
involved.
He's like,
That's
I would have
rude.
rather stayed out of the narrative.
Yeah.
Sam, that's like Sam at the beginning of this season. And like, I feel like there's been so many conversations about what Sam has done that Sam has
Mhm.
not been invited to be a part of.
Yeah.
Sam
And
just
he's
constantly
just
has
there
hear
to
people
witness. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just there to sit
Yeah.
there and be sad.
and have
No,
people
he's like,
say,
damn.
you know, that boy who started the apocalypse.
It's like, yeah,
He's
that's
like,
me.
"That's
Hi.
me.
Well,
I'm the problem. It's
I'm
me."
the problem. Sorry, Sam.
to pivot us a little bit to like Ellen and Joe and kind of that whole thing that's going on, but also related to what we're talking about, I really appreciated Sam's reaction to Dean with the whole, like, you really think after everything that's happened that I would slip up that easily? And Dean's like, well, I don't know, would you? And Sam just shoves him. Like,
Mhm.
that's the one moment of the episode where I was like, you know what, you're damn right, Sam. You
So I
know,
also like empathize with how Dean feels. 'Cause I'm like,
I do, yeah. And it's this weird moment where you're like,
fair.
it's fair from both angles, because
Mhm.
it's like Dean is totally right, because he gave Sam so many chances in season 4 and Sam fucked it all up. But at the same time, like, I think that through these first 2 episodes, Sam is showing serious contrition about what he's done. And
and he's not showing any desire or any pull to go back to any of that.
it hurts him that Dean, because I think Dean knows how hard it was for him to lose hope in Sam, but I think from Sam's perspective, it's like, you would give up on me so easily. Like, he doesn't realize, I think, what Dean's gone through internally. And so from where he's standing, it's like don't give up on me. Like, not you, of all people.
Yeah, because Sam's like, you don't think I would do that on a strategic level. Like, you don't think that I would be stupid enough to like fall off the wagon. But what it's really worried about is that like Dean thinks of him as a monster.
Yeah.
Whereas Dean
Yeah.
is just going, I don't think of you as a monster. I just think you're gonna fall. I just think you might fall off the wagon.
I
Right,
just think
like-
you're gonna fuck it up.
Because, like, I mean, Sam's like demon blood addiction is heavily paralleled to addiction. So, like,
Mhm, exactly.
people
Yeah.
truly, like, they fall back into it, not like willingly. They don't just
No.
choose. They don't just wake up and say, I'm going to do this choice again. Like,
No,
yeah.
there's so many.
Nobody
factors in it.
actively sits there and is like, hey, I'd love to be re-addicted to heroin today. Like, that's not a thought
Right.
that crosses
No.
anybody's mind.
Yeah.
And-
And I think it's fair to like want to keep Sam away from those things though until he's like more settled in like
Absolutely.
his recovery. Cause like
Right.
if someone was
Absolutely.
just coming off an alcohol addiction, you wouldn't be like, let's go to the bar. You just can't do
Right.
it. Like
Yeah.
you would be like, well, let's keep you away from it completely, especially as like a brother. Like I feel like I'm a sister. So I would be like wanting to protect my sister at all costs. And so I'd be like, I don't even
Yeah.
want you around it. I
Right.
want you to not have any kind of like
I don't even want the temptation to be in
temptation.
your presence.
Exactly.
Well, and Dean even
Yeah,
like,
exactly. So like I do see it.
Yeah.
and Dean at the end of the episode again, when he says he's worried about Sam all the time, it's because their job like inevitably means they're
Yes.
constantly
Yeah.
they're constantly in proximity to like the addictive substance
right.
for Sam. Like that's horrible. That's horrible for Sam. That's horrible
Yeah.
for Dean.
Yeah.
That's just like being constantly on edge about that. Like
Right.
it's really understandable as to why
Yeah.
Dean feels kind
Yeah.
of trapped. Like until Sam says, "I'm gonna go," and like get out of.
And I think that's why Dean's like, you should get out of hunting.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, this will be great. Now I don't have to worry about it. And hopefully you can stay away from it. Like,
yeah, he's like, hopefully this actually solves the big problem, which is that you are constantly around the thing that
you had an addiction with.
Yeah, and that like actively led to like the world potentially getting destroyed.
You know,
like
just the apocalypse
stakes are really
casually.
high. Like
right.
the stakes
are huge
for both personally for Sam as a person, but also just for like the world. And Dean is like struggling to balance like which one of those is more important to him because it's Sam.
Right. Who's his entire, like, we just recorded for Dream a Little Dream of Me in season 3, where Dean gives his whole like big monologue of like,
oh no,
everything that he had to do, like all the crap that John put on him for like protecting Sam. And that was he shouldn't have to deal with that. But the fact is that he does. Like, he feels such a need to constantly put Sam first above anything. So
and now it's like the choice between Sam and the world.
Right.
And you know, and all of this like complexity in the trust that's been broken. Even like the funny line of like when he takes the amulet off and he's like, now I feel naked. I'm like, it's a funny, goofy line, but it's also, I think, him going like, I feel like this key part of my identity is like, I'm giving that up willingly.
And it's one of the biggest symbols in the show about their relationship. And for him to take that off, and not to get back to Destiel, but for him to take it off and hand it to Cass.
Yeah, I would like to just say that he says, now I feel naked, and then Cass says, I'll be in touch.
Cass is like, good.
He's like, great.
Also, along those same notes, Dean calls Cass's work with like the sigils on his ribs his glamour shots.
Yeah.
Which I also thought was very cute and funny.
Property of Cass on Dean's ribs.
I like that Dean was the one that was like, I'm gonna go get my rib. I'm gonna go look at what Cass did on my ribs. That's
right. I just need to
me right now. I just need to know. Just need to know.
Oh my goodness.
The amulet, I think it's kind of symbolic because like that is a symbol of Sam's love for Dean because he gave it. We also just recently recorded the Christmas episode. So he gives it to him because Dean, you know, takes care of him and everything. And that is what can help them find God theoretically. And like just like comparing those two things, like finding God with Sam's love for Dean and like that like purity that comes with like a love for God and like for your brother, and like it's a sad symbol, but I feel like they go together.
Which is also like kind of like super painful when you think about like what Dean says about God in this episode, because he says, you know, if there is a God, he's dead, and that's the generous theory, or he's out there and doesn't give a rat's ass. Like Dean kind of doubling down on this whole like, if there's a God, fuck that. Like, screw him. He clearly doesn't care. He's off somewhere drinking margaritas out of a coconut, like, which to be fair, probably is. Dean's not wrong.
Yeah, which is the infuriating part. No, wait, it's like when you know, you know.
When you know, you know.
When you talk about like Dean, like I like that you brought that up, Hannah, but like it's being about Dean, like Dean having a lack of faith in Sam is kind of, that's.
And I think Dean like always, like he knows Sam loves him, but he definitely doesn't think Sam loves him as much as he loves Sam. And so like he doesn't have as much faith in Sam's love for him as he does in his own love for Sam because he knows it.
Well, and his love for Sam is like a parent's love for their child.
Right. Very different.
Like he knows, like I think there's just something that in him that goes like, well, obviously the way I love Sam as his parent is different than the way Sam loves me as my child. Like that's that parentification really just impacting like the way they feel about the other person's love for them.
Not to provide a segue that'll send me directly to jail without $200, but the fact that it's the finale bridge and we're talking about this, like,
okay, good. I'm glad you're gonna bring that up.
The finale bridge and it's
finale
broken.
Bridge makes it.
It's busted. I have feelings, feelings and thoughts.
Yeah, it's a dead end.
Yeah.
The finale bridge.
The finale bridge is a dead end, and they're just gonna have to hike their way through. Perhaps
Dean
by writing
hiking.
a show called The
Dean
Winchesters.
hates hiking. I love that.
I don't
Dean
know.
canonically hates hiking.
Just like me.
He's just like me.
He's so much
so
like me.
Dean coded.
Look, I like a walk in the forest. I have determined I don't like hiking.
Listen,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
like
very
incline.
different.
No kind
it's
of incline.
me. Hi, I'm the protagonist. I'm Dean.
Yeah.
Like it just. It's broken.
Also, like the callback from season 1 about hiking. It just get that mental image of Dean with the M&Ms
Yes.
I do love that you have in here the note about the music, because I feel like that's one of those really great supernatural music moments of like them walking into town with Spirit in the Sky playing.
Gotta have a friend in Jesus. Am I right?
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
That's what I'm always saying.
When I watch Supernatural.
Yes.
I'm like, yep, you gotta.
You got it. That religious symbolism. Also, they do the like, got it. Like the way that they play out the song is it goes the line, gotta have a friend in Jesus. So you know when you die. And that's like when the music cuts. And I thought that was just,
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting because the next line would be, you're going up to the Spirit in the Sky. They cut it off before that line. And
Before
it's just
the
like,
hopeful line.
where are you going? Right, exactly.
Ooh, yeah. Which way? Which way is it gonna go? I also just enjoy that they have like the scene with the music and then it's the car radio. I just enjoy that as like an aesthetic.
I enjoy it when they do that as well.
Yeah.
And this episode has also those like callbacks to like Croatoan kind of feeling, which is kind of cool. Sure. I like when they have episodes. I personally really like the episodes where they like go into a town and something's wrong, something's off. They do a few of them throughout the show, and I personally always really like them. I think they're interesting, especially when they get like trapped, trapped in a town, and we have to figure out what's going on before we can get out. It's a good. I like it as a
like an escape room.
It's like a slightly larger bottle episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually kind of. I think maybe that's why I like it. I actually tend to like bottle episodes.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me about you for some reason.
No. Because they're
good. They're good.
Okay, so I'm gonna quote Community because Abed in the bottle episode of Community says, what is the quote? They're worthwhile communication and emotional nuance. You may as well put a paper bag over my head. And I'm like, that's why I love them. That's why I love the bottle episodes.
They're so good for that reason.
Character shit.
And I mean, speaking of like emotional hits of the episode, like tag yourselves. I'm Ellen yelling at them for not calling for several years.
I am not Ellen slapping Dean though.
Slapping is
why is it always Dean?
It's always Dean.
She does not even seem mad at Sam. She's like basically
it's
directs
always
all of her vitriol at Dean.
I
Which
just don't understand why we
fair.
have to like always blame Dean. Like he's the responsible one. Like they're
he's
both
the only
grown.
adult. Yeah.
They're both grown.
Again, as much as Dean is Sam's parent, he's not actually Sam's parent.
Right. I need other people to not act like Dean is Sam's
Also,
parent.
like supernatural characters show their love without being physically violent. Challenge. Like, I would love to see it. I would really love to see it.
Like she starts out with her using her words, and then it gets
and a hug, and then
you can't pick up the phone. You allergic to giving me peace of mind. I think Noah's gonna feel really vindicated in this moment because he keeps saying like, why are they not calling Ellen? Why are they not calling Joe? Because they're dumbasses.
Because they're idiots.
And Ellen knows it. So does that mean she's been calling them and they've just like not been answering?
You know?
I don't know.
Surely not, but
because if she's not been calling them, she can't really be that pissed that they aren't calling her.
The road goes both ways, Ellen.
So maybe she's
Ellen.
calling them. Well, you can't pick up the phone. Maybe that means that she's been calling them and they've just been like not answering.
That's true.
Maybe
so.
That makes me mad at them a little.
They already got a new phone, and so she's been calling a number that doesn't have anything. They don't use it anymore.
I do love that she calls him Dean Kid. Like, I think that Dean doesn't often get to be like a kid, like doesn't get to be treated like a person who is not like in charge and a leader and expected to be responsible all the time. And I like that she parents him a little bit.
Well, kind of as like a callback to like season 4 when you have It's a Terrible Life and they're in that AU and he's like, my parents are, Bobby Singer and Ellen, like because they're the people that treat him like he is a child. They're probably the only people in his life that treat him like a child and like he needs to be looked after. Like he's not used to that kind of care from anyone else in his life.
Right.
I want to bring up the aesthetic of the way they do the horsemen because I think it's one of my favorite things. I think Supernatural does a really interesting job of pulling like lore, like biblical lore and things like that, and then giving it a modern sort of twist. So like the fact that Dean is like, there's a red Mustang.
And the way he says it's what I would do, like Dean, sweetheart. Of course you would.
But Dean puts all the pieces together.
It made me kind of sad though, because that also was like him comparing himself to like a horseman of the apocalypse. He's like, this is what this really bad person would do. I would also do that because I'm also a really bad person. And so that made me sad.
In relation to that, the whole scene with that the guy from the town where he's like, "Where'd you serve?" And then the guy's like, "Yeah, takes one to know one. What about you? Hell." The guy's like,
"Oh, hell."
And he's like, "No, seriously."
It's called hell.
The guy's like, "No, for real." And Dean's like,
No,
And I
actually
don't know
hell.
why, but something about that on this particular, like today's rewatch, that line really hit me different. Like, because Dean prior to that had always had to behave like a soldier, was treated like a soldier, but like in hell, he actually legitimately like was forced into that and had to be one to survive. And that just like, I don't know why that line hit me a little bit differently this rewatch, and it made me even more sad.
It's like that's the way that Dean sees hell. He sees hell like it was a battleground.
Yeah. That he had to fight and survive through.
And I think about like, oh no, I'm going to talk about the Winchesters.
Oh, let's do it.
I was like,
rip the Band-Aid off.
oh no.
So in season 1, episode 11 of the Winchesters, which as of recording, like just aired this past week, as of this coming out, will be through the finale. So, but in that episode, we find out that John was a POW, which is like a prisoner of war. And I think that's really interesting when you think about like Dean's time in hell, but also John's time in hell, like being a very similar kind of experience. Like you're a soldier, but you're a soldier that's been captured and is being tortured by the enemy, and for their own purposes, they're trying to get something out of you. I think that's a really interesting, like, because like hell isn't a battlefield in terms of the same way that hunting is, but hell is like when you have lost, but you haven't actually lost. You're you're behind enemy lines and you are at their mercy, and
you're a prisoner.
Yeah. And I don't have a more coherent point than that. It just made me think of that.
Yeah.
Thanks. I really enjoy emotional trauma.
Yeah, me too. I also think it's interesting how just like casually Dean says that to the soldier guy. He's just like, "Oh, hell." And the guy's like, "No, for real." And Dean's like, "Yeah, for real. Hell. That's just something I tell people. I went to hell." Like, that's just
like,
not
I've
a
had
casual
a year
thing.
to deal with it. I've been to hell.
I'm good.
Well, not to
no trauma.
I think it's very funny that after Dean just like, "Yep, hell," the guy's like, "No more follow-up questions. Zero."
Like,
it's like I won't say who, but I know that y'all will know, and anybody who's seen the whole of the series will know. But it's like there's a historical figure that Dean kills later in the series, and he's just so open in bragging about it, and it's great. Like,
and the person he tells is just like, "Yeah, okay,
cool."
Excellent. Good for you.
Well done. Like it's great.
Yeah,
like Dean is just like, his name may as well be Dean, I don't give a fuck Winchester, and I just enjoy that for him.
For sure.
Also, I think it's interesting because like Dean was definitely soldier like before hell.
Oh
because of John. And so like he doesn't even expand on the fact that he's been doing this since he was 4. And he's just like, "Oh yeah, I just had a tour in hell." He doesn't even
spent a lot of time in hell.
I mean, I know it was a long time, like
just
40
a 30-year stint.
But there's also been
Hades.
roughly 30 years of him being a soldier.
Yes.
Almost 30 years of him being
not in hell.
in his regular life.
Yeah. 26 years
But he's just
of
not
being
gonna
a
bring that up.
soldier on Earth, and then 30 years. So wait, so that's 56 years that he served. And now I want to I would like to die.
He needs a break. I'm going to get upset.
We have 10 more seasons.
Going to get upset? You're just not upset as is? Like, I'm
It's just
not
going to.
I am.
When I say going, I mean like physically it's going to show. I'm already upset.
You're going to know. I have just a question for myself, and this doesn't even have to stay in the podcast. How do the horsemen have like appearances? Like they're not like demons where they like smoke into a body. I don't remember how that works.
That's true, because he mentions the body is in a ditch somewhere. So I'm like, okay, so they take the body. I don't know if
he
they just
changes himself. Like they can just do that.
Maybe they're kind
also,
of like,
shouldn't the car disappear when he disappears?
Maybe it's actually just a car. Maybe he just stole a car somewhere and then came into town, because he doesn't like.
It's a mythical car. If other cars go to heaven, then this car should disappear when he disappears. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Again, if you know, you know, wink.
I just couldn't remember if that was ever like explicit later in the show.
So we have gotten an answer here, which I think is not necessarily not spoilery in the sense that so the Supernatural Wiki says they can manifest by mimicking human form. Each of the horsemen use a special ring that channels their core ability, without which they are unable to take physical form. So it seems like the ring is what enables them to take physical form, and I think that's the only.
So pit stop to Mount Doom?
A favorite line in this
Makes
episode.
sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
Genuinely.
Dean, the nerd that you are.
I love a nerd.
Nerd Dean for the win.
I love a nerdy man.
Also, just intelligent Dean. Like he,
Ugh.
like Sam has to
He's
have
so
this like
smart.
narratively explained to him by War. Dean is just like figures it out all
Yes.
on his
Yeah, he's like poisoned water and a comet. This must be the Book of Revelation. You dweeb.
Also, so interesting that he knows the book of Revelation that well. He's just like, yeah, for sure. It's Revelation 8:10. Like, he's like, well, there it is. And the priest is like, yeah, that's it. That's so true.
the priest who has spent his life doing this.
Well,
Right.
I
And Dean
feel like
Winchester, notable.
I mean-
I don't believe in God person.
Right.
Right.
listen, and this is not to discredit Dean knowing that in the moment, but this is just my theory on like why he is so quick to have that available. I feel like given the events of the last season, he's probably brushed up on his revelation.
True, for sure.
Absolutely. That doesn't mean that it's not.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
it's-
Like, it's
like, I
not
think
to
that's-
discredit him. It's actually a credit to him because he's like, oh, we're dealing with the apocalypse. Looks like I got to do the
Source
Bible
material.
study.
I got some stuff.
Yeah.
We're dealing with the apocalypse.
Bible.
Oh Lord, I hope I never live through an apocalypse. I will be.
I mean, I've
triggered.
done lots of Bible studies, so if I live through an apocalypse, I'll be well prepared.
I don't think I will be, but good for
I
you.
mean, not in any actually helpful sense, more in the sense that
Like, I know what's happening.
I've been to Bible
Like-
study. I've done that part already.
Yeah.
That part of preparation.
That's
Anything-
yeah.
I'm still going to be dead immediately, but that's.
But you've read it at least.
Yeah, I've read it.
So you're
I'm gonna be
good
like,
to
"Oh, I
go.
don't know what's happening, and now I'm dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Well done.
Hannah and I watched this episode together, so we were like texting back and forth when it was playing. And like I said, I was like, Dean is so smart. He's just
He's
so
so
smart. I don't feel like Dean gets the credit he deserves
No.
for being smart.
No.
I agree.
I feel like they
That's a
always
frequent thing we
put
talk about on
Sam
the show.
is the smart brother, Dean is the dumb brother, and it's just simply not
Especially
true.
in an episode like this.
Amen.
On Raising Perdition, we often say that like Dean is super smart, but he just like wants Sam to feel like he's the smarter one. So he pretends to be dumb all the time. He's just like, I don't know, Sam, why don't you explain it to me? And Sam's
Explain
like,
it to
you
me.
idiot, and explains it. And then Dean's like, I knew that already, but
Yeah, it's
I
like
hope you feel
Dean-
better about yourself.
Dean, like, I think also Dean uses this as a strategic thing of like, if people perceive me as not smart,
Mhm.
I will be able to get the one up on them.
Yeah.
It's a very like if they know your next move, they can control your next move. So play dumb
Yeah.
so that they don't know they're up against somebody very smart.
Yeah,
Yes.
they will never
Yes,
think that you are going to
absolutely.
actually have figured out what's going on. They'll just think you're
Yeah.
like big man, smash things.
Right.
And also, okay, not to bring back a frequently discussed theory upon this show, but generally speaking, that is an experience shared by a great number of cis women, that they know things and just generally tend to let the guys around them think that the guys are explaining it to them. And so like we have often talked on this show about the idea of a trans Dean, and so that would fit squarely into that, where he's just like,
It
sure,
would.
Sam,
It
I
would.
can
Oh, Sam,
pretend
please-
that I'm stupid.
please
Yeah.
explain it to me. I just don't
Right.
know, even though
Yeah.
I'm much smarter than I let on. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
like
that fits.
I love
Yeah.
any excuse to bring up trans Dean theories.
Any
Also, I
excuse.
may or may not have been recently rereading No Win Scenario, which is August fanfic, and you should go reread it. It's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's good.
Shameless
I've
plug,
read it.
just casually
It is
in
good.
here. Like literally was reading it yesterday for no apparent reason. I
Aw.
just was
Oh, that makes me
I
feel
thought
happy.
about it and I was like, I'm gonna go reread this.
That's really, really precious.
Yeah.
It is.
I
Yeah.
don't know why
Thanks,
it hit
Elayna.
my brain.
Thanks,
Anyway,
Elayna.
but shameless plug. Trans Dean 5 ever. It's a great theory.
Mm-hmm. It
Yes.
really is. Okay, can we talk about the thing where the conversation that Sam and War have? Because I think
Yes.
it's really important to talking about Sam
Very.
in this episode, because War calls Sam his poster boy, which is very Boy King Sam
Yeah. It
yeah,
is.
it's very
vibes. We haven't had that in a while, and I was so happy to have it back.
very season 2 Sam vibes.
Yeah.
And identifying that Sam's got this like lust for power, which I think is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like based on trauma,
Agreed.
it's like this lust for control and like security, but that
Yeah.
sound like goes down that path.
Right. And it's like it stems from him thinking that he knows what's best either for himself or like for other people, like when he's making those big decisions. It's the reason why he did all the things he did in season 4. Like he was like, I know the right way to do this. This is the right way. And then just like having to have the horseman War like look you in the eyes and be like, yeah, you want more of that. And he's like, oh, like, I don't know if that's, I don't want to hear that. I don't.
And for like the horseman to be like, good intentions, quick slide to hell, buddy boy.
Right.
Sam's intentions are good. Sam's heart is good. Sam wants to do the right thing. He wants to be good. But Sam is also willing to make questionable decisions when he thinks he's right, because he thinks that because his intentions are good, meaning all of his decisions will like work out in the end. And that's been very proven to not be true. But it's still like, I think one of the core struggles of Sam's character is that struggle between like, I have good intentions, but that doesn't always mean that I'm right.
Right.
Very good point.
Something when Beth and I did watch this episode together in person and then watched it again, not in person. This was like a couple weeks ago when we went to the Noah Khan concert.
Nice.
And something Beth brought up was in the like gas station when Sam is stabbing the demons. There's no flash with the demon blade like there normally is. And Sam just doesn't notice. He just doesn't care.
Is that for the audience? Are we we know? Can the boys see when demons flash?
Or is it just Sam being kind of
like not paying attention?
Because it's demons and he's just seeing the blood and that's what's throwing him.
Yes, to me it's that one. Like he has so much anger right now. He just wants to like kill what he thinks are demons, but also like he's got the demon blood situation going on. And so he's like not even thinking about it. Like I feel like the flash actually happens for them. Like I don't think it's just for audience.
Right.
So that's really interesting that would
like Sam should clock that like these demons don't die like demons normally die.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I wonder that also brings up a question that I have, which is because they're not demons, like Sam just is now having this reaction to like he's having a placebo effect reaction.
Yes.
Normal human blood.
Yes.
Because that is not demon blood.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. I don't think he can actually tell any different.
That made me way more sad than I
Okay. Also, when you think about the fact that there's no flash to distract you, it makes these deaths so much more violent. Like
really it was hard
horrifying.
To watch
the one like that's a horrible.
Yeah. Something that
I had to look away
in realizing this, that also makes it so much more heartbreaking, and I think points out how sensitive Sam is, because he does have a moment where he's like feels extra guilt for killing them, and like he points that out. Like he's killed plenty of demons in his time and not felt bad about it, but he seems to feel a weird sense of extra guilt about this. And he's like, and he blames it on like, oh well, they were teenagers and I used to save people. But I wonder if that's like on some weird subconscious level him clocking that this felt
they weren't
more
demons
wrong than normal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so gut-wrenching.
And he feels more wrong and more responsible. Like regardless of whether or not they're demons, he feels worse about this because of everything that's happened. Because he got all this to atone for.
Like I hate it, but I'm so glad you brought it up at the same time. So next we're going to move into our going meta section, where we are tracking lore, representation, behind the scenes trivia, and more. Since Noah's not here, I have to go rep check. I love it when he does that. Every time he does it, I have a little giggle in my heart.
That one's for you, Noah.
Yep. Representation isn't the worst in this one, but
really
it's also not good. Yeah, it's kind of not.
I wish we got more of Rufus in this episode. Because I was really excited, being like, this is the episode where we get Rufus again. And then he doesn't really as soon as they like start to figure out what's going on, he kind of gets brushed aside. And I think that's unfortunate.
I wouldn't mind a Rufus and Joe spinoff, I'll be honest with you.
You can do some damage for sure.
Yeah, I think that should be Chaos Machine's next project.
Rufus and Joe spinoff.
Yeah, I would support it greatly. I do love the relationship dynamic though going on between Ellen and Joe, thinking that the other is a demon, and like how they interact with one another when like they think that the other one is, but they still have like that deep abiding love for each other. And like when Rufus is like, oh, demons find it harder to move when they don't have legs, and she's like, that's my mom you're talking about. Like, please don't blow up my mom.
Yeah.
So get this, I was looking into the lore, and we've kind of already discussed most of the lore.
Horsemen. This is a big deal.
Horsemen are the big deal. Yeah.
Well, because symbols of the apocalypse.
Yeah, like we're really we're in the apocalypse now, like squarely. Like we've got war just casually showing up.
They don't kill him. They just sort of like
hit his finger.
Yeah, banish him.
They just like Isildur that bitch basically. They
They just take away the source of his power.
Yeah.
So I guess now he's just doing
Some dude?
something. He's just some guy.
Lowercase W. Yeah, just a lowercase W war.
Yeah, he's just argument now.
Conflict. Low stakes conflict.
Yeah, low stakes conflict.
Now he
A
just
disagreement.
Now he just goes around to offices and like stirs the pot and gets people like having workplace drama. That's the
he
extent of
starts
the drama.
water cooler disagreements now.
Yeah.
Oh man, I had a connection I was gonna make and I got distracted by my own stupid point. What I did like, and this is just a fun kind of like, it's one part lore, one part like pop culture reference, but I love how like Supernatural, and I mean, I don't think it's the first story, I'm sure it's not the first story to ever approach this type of story where it's like, oh, this like war is, causing conflict between humans and, manipulating them. But like, I love that this episode came out and then like years later, the plot of Wonder Woman is basically the exact same thing. Like it just, like Supernatural is just such a blueprint for pop culture. And I love that. Like Supernatural was sitting here like doing the same thing that a lot of stuff does right now. And like it's so funny to me like how much media I watch. And I'll be like, oh, there's a Supernatural episode that did that like 5 years ago.
Supernatural likes to try lots of shit. And some of it works.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the times I would argue that I think it really works.
Yeah, I think they did the damn thing this time.
Yeah.
I think it was really cool how they handled the like using typical demon tactic and realizing that they weren't working, like realizing that the exorcism's not working, the salt's not working. Like that was just kind of a really interesting way for them to realize that something else is going on here.
Mm-hmm.
But
it seemed like it took them a while, but they did realize it.
I guess if someone has black eyes, you're just like, I don't know what's going on.
I mean, sure. Totally fair. Yeah.
Up to this point, Beth has been a pretty good marker of like demon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Other than the one time with Sam and Demon Blood. That's the only black eyes where we've seen that's not been demon.
I do have one other lore piece that I noticed this watch through that I thought was interesting. I don't think it helps that Sam ends up being the one that gets intercepted by Rufus and particularly Joe. Because if we remember, Joe has interacted with Sam possessed by a demon before.
Oh, that's
so
true.
she has every reason to like be afraid of Sam with black eyes because she's seen that shit and she's been attacked by that shit.
She does.
So it's a
trauma.
trauma response. And part of me wonders if lore was preying on that specifically.
Mm-hmm.
But that was something that had never really occurred to me until this watch through. And I was like, oh God, not a callback to Born Under a Bad Sign. And I think that is actually kind of what helps her to realize like something's wrong because she knows how Sam acts when he's a demon and he's not acting like that right now.
There's too much actual Sam in his actions.
Yeah.
She also knows how Sam is as Sam.
Yeah.
It's a good connection.
I think we had a fun behind the scenes thing though today that we haven't had one of those in a minute. And so I'm kind of excited that we do today.
I mean, obviously the bridge that's used in the finale is in this episode. But also this episode is largely filmed in my hometown, which is kind of fun. Like these episodes are filmed, like Supernatural is filmed like all over the Lower Mainland, which is like the region that I grew up in. But this specific town, I was watching this episode and I was like, this is like extra familiar. Like the little church. I was like, that is a really specific, like small, like style of church. And it's because it's like in the downtown of the town that I grew up in and spent like the first 18 years of my life in.
That's kind of bananas.
Yeah. And the lookout where they have that final conversation is also like an area that I know, like a pull off that I have sat at and like been at. And it was a fun.
Wow.
It's just really fun. This episode feels very like the location, like when they're like pointing and like doing shots of things. I was like, yeah, this is very BC. This is all my home places.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of fun.
It is fun.
Thank you for sharing that.
Fun little behind the scenes thing.
Well, with that being said, it is time for our final and favorite bit of the episode. It's time for blessings. So who wants to go first with our blessings for this week?
We only see him for a little bit, but I'd like to bless Bobby. He's going through it right now. And he's not happy about it. And we love Bobby.
We love Bobby.
I love his line when he's like, if you find God, tell him send legs.
Bring some legs.
That's already gone. Like, away.
Sweet.
Just screaming it.
Sweet Bobby.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd love to
he
be
is.
the person in the hospital room next to Bobby.
Mhm.
I feel like that
Oh,
must be
yeah.
an experience.
Just anyone ever on the outskirts of any Winchester shenanigans. Just being like,
Interactions.
what is happening?
Yeah.
Anyone
What is
hearing
going
their
on
conversations,
with them?
anyone
Yeah.
hearing their conversations and being like, anything that's because everything they talk about is either straight up illegal, like you should
Mhm.
call the cops immediately if you hear this,
Mhm.
or it's just like real questionable. So you're like, this is not technically illegal, but I do feel like I should tell someone.
But should it be discussed in public?
Right.
Right.
Question.
They're all
Like Cass being
insane.
like, I need your necklace to find God. Can you imagine hearing that in the hospital the room next to you? Be like,
Or the nurse comes up to the door to like do a check-in
And
is
just
like,
hears,
yeah.
no, he's not on any flat
backs-
bed.
and just
like,
backs up.
Like, I'm gonna give it a minute.
I
I'll
don't
come
think
back.
it's my time. Yeah, he'll be okay.
I'll come back.
the nurse just goes, I am not paid enough for this.
So
And
true.
No, they
So
are
true.
not.
Oh, that's great. What about you, Beth?
Well, I have to take my chance
Mhm.
to do it. So I'm
Do
gonna
it.
bless
Of course.
Cass,
Of
Woo!
course you
the
are.
love of my life. I'm gonna bless him. And he's
Do you love him or something? Is that
I
like a
do.
thing?
I
Does
love
Beth
him
Beth
very,
loves
very much.
Cass.
This is
Sounds right to
Pumpkin.
me.
He's in the episode, so I'm gonna bless him.
Right.
He's dealing with the fall and not being connected with heaven, but not really having a place to go, because like sure, he's with Dean and Sam and all that, but he's not really with them, so he's alone, and he's got his own set of daddy issues, and he's gonna go try to find God. And so I just feel like he needs to be blessed as well, even though this
And he's like-
episode's not about him.
He's like, what are these new feelings I'm feeling?
Exactly.
that
He's like,
I don't
oh,
know how
God.
to handle
Mm-hmm.
this man. I swear to God, this man.
Cass is like, what is this feeling? So sudden and new.
Yes.
I felt
Yes.
the moment
He's
I
like,
raised
this
you from
man's
hell.
mouth. Yeah.
I fell from heaven, and I thought my feelings would change. I don't know. He's back
Yeah,
from the
this is
dead.
rough.
Like he's
Yeah.
going through a lot, and I'm gonna bless him because I
Yes.
can.
Bless him, Beth.
Good.
Amen to that. August, what about you?
I'm gonna bless Dean
Yay.
because I think we see like the emotional range of a teaspoon in this episode. Like he's really struggling, but like not in the way he often struggles, which is to like be big and loud and like violent about it. He's struggling in a really quiet, like subdued way, which is more concerning because he's just very resigned to like the apocalypse, to Sam leaving, to like feeling adrift, and that sucks. He's just having a really hard time with the fact that he feels very hopeless, very much like he does not know what to do to stop any of this. And yeah, I'll bless him for like the going through of that and trying to figure out what to do about it.
Good blessing. I'm going to bless Sam this week because sweet little nougat. He's been through so much lately and is dealing with
Mhm.
so many people doubting him. And it's like, well, sure that they have lots of reasons to doubt him. I think he feels so let down with himself. And I think that having to walk away from Dean at the end of this episode really breaks his heart. And particularly, we kind of already touched on it, but when he's like, I was expecting a fight, I think the better way to have worded that would be, I was hoping for a fight. Like, I think he really wanted Dean to be like, no, of course not. You have to stay with me. You're my brother. And
Mhm.
I think being met with Dean saying, I think that you're right, that's for the best, is the thing that really crushes him.
Mhm.
And it just makes me want to give him a weighted blanket and some tea. So yeah, I'm gonna bless Sam for what he goes through this episode, because walking away from the person that matters to him more than literal any other person on planet Earth cannot be easy.
He deserves that thing today.
That, I believe, is all we have for today. I would like to thank our beloveds, Hannah and Beth, for joining us
Mhm.
again.
Yes, thank you.
It is always so fun to chat with y'all.
Thanks for having us. We had a great time.
Yeah, it's so fun.
And please plug your podcast and your stuff, because you have some pretty awesome shows and things that you do. And we want our listeners to know where to find you on the great wide internet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we do our own supernatural rewatch podcast called Raising Perdition. We have just gotten into season 3. And then we also do a Winchesters watch podcast called Raising Winchesters. And if you type those in to platforms, you'll be able to find them probably. So
We'll have the links in the
Yeah.
episode description as
Links
well
in
to
our
make it easy
description
for you.
as always.
and if you want to find me specifically, I'm Beth Loves Cass everywhere. So
Do you love the cats?
I do.
Is that a thing? Cool.
I'm same things as Beth, except my personal me on social media is Hannah Loves Dean, Lubs.
Yep.
I don't.
Fascinating.
Not
Learning
anymore.
new
It's
things
changed.
about you.
No, I do love Dean. Also, we do have a Discord. I don't think Beth said
Oh,
that.
We didn't.
So
I actually don't think I knew that. That's awesome.
Oh, well, we
Pretty
do.
new, so
We would
it's
love for
exciting.
more people to join. It's a week and a half old, and it's right now, obviously won't be the same when this comes out. We're having a lot of fun though. So Elayna, you should definitely join if you want to, but also, yeah.
Hashtag DM me, bro. That sounds awesome. But thank you for joining us. I'm so glad that we got to chat with y'all. Make sure, as always, that you are subscribed to Saving People Queering Things wherever you listen to your podcast, and make sure to share our show with your friends.
And as always, you can find links to all of our show social media and our own Discord server through our website, queeringthingspodcast.com.
And if you are all caught up on Supernatural and want to go back to before the beginning, where we get even more feral than before, you can listen to August and myself and our friends Beth and KJ over on Wayward Parents. We have updates for that on @WaywardParents on Twitter and on Tumblr @WaywardParentsPod. And that show is getting real clown car-y, my friends. So come hang out.
Yeah.
The entire season is out now, so you can listen to every episode of that show as of now.
Ah!
And I can't say anything else because we don't know anything else.
Come along for the ride.
Be sure to ride along with us next week as we explore season 5, episode 3, Free to Be You and Me, with a very special new guest, Pluto, or Queerbait Scholar, as you may know them on the internet. We're very excited to chat with them next week.
Thank you all for coming along for the ride.
And we wish you a peaceful road until we meet again.